Music. The Zoom R24 digital recorder. Why I own three. Released in 2011, the R24 has been around for quite a while. Zoom is currently releasing new digital recorder, multi-track recorders that are similar but not the same as the R24. They have touch screens. That's one of the big attractions, and a big color screen to work on. So that could be more user-friendly, but I don't mind having real buttons and stuff. I'm old school when it comes to that. And what I believe is that eventually the Zoom R24 will be discontinued, and I want to make sure that I have a number of them on hand so that I can keep using them for quite a while. The big thing is I bought an R16 thinking I could use it with the R24, and that would be so that I could switch projects between the two, and they're not compatible. You can't import a project from the R16 into the 24 or vice versa. Therefore, if you want to use tracks, you'd have to take them, make a new project, import all the tracks, which is a total pain. I wanted having several units that I could just grab the SD card and put it in a different recorder in a different place and instantly bring up that project and be able to work with it. So that was one of the big things of compatibility. I wanted to make sure that I had several of them before they stopped making them. 8-track simultaneous recording. When I was buying a digital recorder, I was looking for something that could record as many tracks simultaneously as possible. The R24 gives you 8 tracks simultaneously and 24 total. So I can record 8 tracks. I can have a track with a vocal on it, with a dry signal, an effect signal. I can have guitars running through various different pedals or different mics and record all of this at one time without any problems with latency. This is one of the most important factors. Plus, there's 24 tracks total, so you can do several takes like this, or you can switch to the second or the third bank of 8 and record another 8 on each of those. So that gives you quite a bit of flexibility when it comes to recording stuff. The sampler function. When I bought this, I didn't really even realize how useful this could be. But the R24 allows you to record any kind of sample from any source and then loop it. And it allows you trimming functions, which are pretty good. I had a Korg micro sampler, and I find it easier to trim samples on the R24 than I did on the micro sampler. It gives you great control over making the loop, and then you have that loop stored as a WAV file, which you have access to, and you can move it onto your computer if you want to at a later date. But it's also just the best thing for when you're recording ideas. You record a simple drum line, a bass line, a guitar line, and you can loop that up, any other instruments, and then try to come up with ideas over the top of that. As a notebook for making songs as a songwriter, this is probably one of the most valuable things. I can just sit down and very quickly come up with something before the inspiration disappears. There's one more thing that's quite interesting about this, is that it also has a sequencer on board. So then you can take these loops and program them and have it run certain loops in and out. Kind of reminds me of what you can do with Fruity Loops, how you have the sequencer option, or basically any sequencer, but Fruity Loops is the one I have experience with. And so it's very similar to that. And so for each bar, you can decide which samples are playing and which ones are not. Portability. The Zoom R24 runs on batteries, runs on, I think it's 6 AA's. It can run on a USB power, although it has some restrictions. I think you only have 2 channels in you can record simultaneously, and it really is quite lightweight. It's lighter and about the size of one of my big Boss old M30, I think it is, effects pedals. So if you've seen one of these big multi-effect pedals and guitar pedals, it's about that size, and it's really not very heavy because it doesn't have a hard drive or anything. It's all solid state recording, and You can take it from place to place by throwing it. It fits in a PC or in a laptop carry case quite easily. Um, the real reason that it being so portable, I started taking it to the rehearsal room and recording our rehearsals there in the rehearsal space. But another reason that I decided to buy more than one was so that I wouldn't have to take the recorder with me to from home to the rehearsal place. I go there on a bike, and I just thought if I get in an accident or the vibrations aren't good for it, so I decided to buy a second one and leave it at the rehearsal space. Then when I go there, all I have to do is throw in the SD card from home, and I can have projects ready to go. I can have drum loops going or other things recorded, and then we can record on top of that. So it's very convenient for that. And then when I'm finished, I just have to remember to take out the SD card, take it home with me, and I can set that same project up at home and continue working on it. So that's been really, really useful. One of the main reasons having more than one of these units is great. DAW-less recording. Yes, computers are wonderful, but there is something about booting up a computer, setting everything up, getting lost in the screen. There's several reasons why recording on a computer can kind of suck the life out of a project, especially when it's just starting out. So being able to just flip on the R24 and in less than 30 seconds be up and running and be able to start plugging stuff in and get going really helps keep the energy moving. And so that's one of the reasons that I really like using the R24. Anyone who's used computers with audio interfaces and drivers and all of those things, plus it's just very distracting when you're on the computer. You've got a million options, and the R24 kind of forces you to focus on the music and also listen more than use your eyes, which for me is a good thing because I'm very visually oriented, and so for me to not have that screen distracting me helps me focus on the music and the audio. Plus there's also something about moving actual sliders and knobs versus a mouse click, and that makes it more tactile and more interesting for me. Damage to the R24. Now, my first R24, I blew at least 3 of the preamps to it, and I believe it was user error. It was my fault. I plugged stuff in that was way too hot with the preamp set way too high and blew them. You can hear when I plug something into them now, you get a lot of static, and I really can't use them for recording. This hasn't happened on my second and third unit because I was warned and I knew how to be more careful about that. So I believe that's why I really believe that it was my fault. So that's one reason that I wanted to buy a second and then a third recorder, is because I know that there is a possibility of damage to the preamps. I guess you could probably get them replaced somehow, but it's not that expensive a unit. It would probably cost me hundreds of dollars or euros to get them replaced, and I have checked into it, and it's really, Zoom doesn't really, I haven't found a good option for sending it back to have things replaced, so I just keep buying more units. That's the damage. The other thing is that on my oldest unit, the buttons are starting to stop responding. Could be because the thing has just gotten dirty and dust in the things. Maybe I can clean it, but several of the buttons, the jog wheel's getting a bit flaky on my oldest unit, and my play button, which I use so much, is the one that is sticking a bit. And so these are things that I see that the unit is getting old, and so that there's the reasons that I want to have some backup units around, so for when my first unit becomes totally unusable, I can just retire it and move on to the next one. Linking units together. You can actually take 2 R24s and connect them by USB and use them simultaneously. This can give you 16 tracks of recording. So if you're doing some sort of live session and you want to have 4 mics on your drums, a bass player, a couple mics for singers, guitars, all of the different effects, a keyboard, you can have more than enough. With 16 tracks for most just general non-professional live recordings, I think that's more than enough. So that's an interesting option. I've tried it and it does work. The R24 has 2 onboard condenser mics. You can record in stereo or you can record 2 mono signals, and it's great for just having an idea, sitting down and banging it out and getting a quick down and dirty demo recording of something. Then later, if you've done it to a click track, you can add drums and other things to it. So it really makes it easy to build a song. Actually, I'm using the condenser mics right now to record this video. Programmable drum machine. The drum machine on the R24, although it's not the best in the world, is very usable. You can program in 8ths and 16 notes and also with triplets, and so you can get a swing feel to things. It comes with a large, long list of patterns that you can use, or you can make your own. And that's what I like to do the most, is make my own patterns, just for originality's sake. And it's quite easy to work with. You can either put stuff in, you can program it in step by step, or you can record things in live, which is really great for trying to get a specific feel. You put the quantization all the way up, and so it lets you get this really, so it's not exactly on the grid, and I've had pretty good results with that. All right, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching. You can check out music, or SHT music, Stupid Human Tricks music, on Bandcamp, YouTube, and all over the internet. Bye-bye.